Wow, morning YouTube. Okay, I've brought my Roach-kon to a friend of mine, Charles, who owns a farm. He's got a couple of 100 acres, and the deal is that I process some firewood for him, and he lets me take the Roach-kon out for a ride on the farm. So it sounds like a half decent deal. So here's the Chopper One axe. This is where it comes. This is how it comes. I bought it in the US, got it shipped to the UK. The axe itself wasn't a lot of dough, it's about $79, but the shipping to the UK was about the same. So it's probably ended up to be an axe that has cost kind of well over £100, about $150, which is just ridiculous, you know, for an axe. But it's called the Chopper One, made in the US, hickory handle. But the greatest thing about it is purely a splitting axe, but it's got this kind of latching system, you know, where you drive it into the wood and the blade just goes kind of into the cut, and then you've got these two spring-loaded latches, and what they do is they assist the splitting of the wood. And by all accounts, it is one of the most efficient designs in the world. Like I say, they don't sell them sort of through anybody, you know. The Chopper One people are the only people that sell it, and exclusively in the US. So I only know one other person in the UK that's got one. So a real handy bit of kit when it comes to kind of splitting logs. But going to get to work now, split some of these big logs down for my friend, and pay for my couple of hours on my Roach-kon on the farm. So let's get started. Okay, enough playing. Let's get some food on. So this is a little camp that I've had to settle for. It's really
cutting out the wind. I'm going to lean against the tree. This is where my fire's going to be. This is where I'm going to do my cooking. That's my layout. Look at that. For a beautiful sunset. So I'm just going to light my fire just underneath the apex of the basher. Once I've got a little sort of independent flame there, then I'll move it out from underneath the tarp. But at the moment, that's the place that's protected from the wind the most, probably. So that's where my little fire's going to start, and then I'll move. So that's where my little fire pit's going to be. Just going to dig it out just below ground level. That way, it keeps my fire out of the wind. Wow, the wind was really blowing earlier, and we've had downpour after downpour so far, but just doing a little bit of scoff. Thought I'd really spoil myself. I don't know if you can see that beautiful piece of rump steak. Going to cook it on a fire, and got a brew on the go. Going to have it with a couple of eggs, and that's going to be as complicated as it is. Not having anything with it. Just a nice piece of beautiful rump steak on the fire. That little bit of fat I think is going to cook my eggs. Let's get it on. Just leave that bit of steak to kind of warm up, hopefully cook in its own fat. A couple of eggs on the side just before it's done. That's going to be a nice, beautiful camp dinner. Just been whizzing around the woods on a Roach-kon really. The deal was that I had to chop some firewood in order to have kind of 40 acres to myself, which was a bargain, and I've got it out and really enjoyed it. Cleaning my knife, sorry. The woods were a little bit muddy, but the Roach-kon, nothing here that would tax it in the slightest. You know, it is really in its element. I was having a little bit of trouble with it, to be quite honest. It wouldn't idle, or it kept stalling. But drained all the gas out of it, brand new tank of gas, and mate, it's been roaring around the tree, and it is happy as Larry. Guess I need to kind of bring everybody up to speed with everything else that's been going on. Everyone knows that I kind of took on Chris Kane's Survival, and Chris came up to me at the Wilderness Gathering. Kind of said, you know, how you doing, Roach? Blah blah blah. Sort of met in passing, really. Phoned me the next day. Sort of said, how do you feel about a meeting, getting involved with Chris Kane's Survival? And I sort of thought, oh God, you know, I've got to go all the way to the other side of London. And the next day, Chris Kane was pretty much on my doorstep. I spent 8 weeks having a look at the firm. So everything they'd done in the past. Went to see the manufacturers of the knives. Met a few personalities, and that probably lasted about 4 weeks, I suppose. The next 4 weeks it was trying to get rationalising the product line and ordering stock. So it was about 8 weeks before I started in full. Dave Canterbury came on board. He is the biggest single client, I think. And so he's had a few, and you could buy Chris Kane's Survival knives on his website. In total, in kind of 8 weeks, I sold a little over 100 knives. Turnover was about 10,000 quid, and I thought that was a pretty good pilot. But after all of that, aggravation is too strong a word. It's the wrong term. But I made it crystal clear to Chris Kane from the off that I was only really interested in running a 100% kind of legitimate standalone company with good foundations, and he signed off on that. But Chris had slightly different ideas as to how to take the company forward. I've sold more knives than anybody else has ever had anything to do with it. But as you get involved in these things, you find out what's gone on before, you know, and I am probably just the latest person to have an involvement with Chris Kane Survival, take it forward a few steps, and then be outed rather abruptly. So, can't really say that I was surprised. I think I did a good job while I was there, and that's that really. I don't want to, you know, be an individual that sort of ends up telling tales and, you know, he said this and he did that. But just turn a mistake over. Don't really want to turn into somebody that's sort of telling tales and all the rest of it, but I never really had control over the Chris Kane Survival website. I certainly wasn't in charge of the postage costs and all the rest of it. I thought they were pretty heavy, really, on top of the cost of what you were buying, but that was out of my control. Manufacturing, I had a little bit of problem from time to time with manufacturing. I'd order kind of fairly big orders for whatever reason. They turned up in kind of dribs and drabs, so if you did buy a Chris Kane Survival knife and it took a while to get to you, you have my kind of personal apology on that. Most people, I think, got the products within a few days, and I did my absolute best to be true to my word and sort of said, you know, if you bought something you would have it in a few days. There were a few people in Canada that bought Chris Kane Survival knives, and obviously if you're living in the Canadian wilderness it's going to take a little bit longer to get to you, so apologies for that. There were a couple of occasions when cash flow was an issue. You know, I set up a limited company, like I said, took offices that the shortest lease I could get was a 3-month lease because I didn't know how things were going to plan out, and obviously they have to be paid, postage has to be paid, you know, there is all sorts of expenditure when you set up a business on top of and in excess of anything that most people that's never had anything to do with running a business would realise. So there were a couple of issues with me paying my suppliers, but here we are at the end of my involvement. Everybody's paid. We've sold over 100 Chris Kane Survival knives. I still think it's a great product. I still think you know, Chris Kane's a nice guy. Like a lot of other people, I thought maybe I could kind of reach out and get him to run a legitimate, upright business that would at some point in the future bring in a wage for him, you know, to support him and his family. I was quite surprised at the way I was kind of treated. But for all the people that have been wanting a definitive answer, Roach is no longer involved in Chris Kane Survival, and I'll be back doing my own thing. I still think prepping has a worth, you know, so I'll be kind of putting my foot on the gas and getting back into that. So my steak is kind of sizzling away, so I'll share that with you. I'm just going to put the eggs on so we'll have a bit of scoff. It's getting dark. My intention is not to stay here tonight. I've literally just been out for the day and playing with a Roach-kon. Just like to thank everybody that gave me access to the land and enabled me to sort of get out, familiarise myself with this thing, and just find out for real what it can and cannot do, and it has absolutely blown me away, I have to say. I think that's about it. So we'll have a bit of dinner, and then we'll be packing up and heading out. Share all that with you. I'm always getting told off for not sharing the food with you. So there's my piece of rump steak, a couple of eggs, a cup of tea. So that's my dinner in the woods. A little bit of an update as to where I am with Chris Game Survival. I'm pretty much done now. Chris is back on his own, doing his own thing, and good luck to him. Okay, rump steak, a couple of eggs. That ain't half bad on a winter's evening in the woods. I'm a little bit biased, but I would say that is cooked to perfection. As always, YouTube, any comments? Love to hear them.